Hello everybody, Craig Warrack here, and Merry Christmas! Welcome to GENOSHA, island of utter devastation and mutant genocide. Wish you were here. If you haven't already seen my video of this display and the figures involved in it, then please pop over quick. It's a very quick video for me, about only 4 minutes in length, showing all the aspects of this in a very atmospheric way. But what I'm doing in this video is I'm taking a less atmospheric look at it and telling you all about the work that's gone into it. So what you're seeing here is the base for the display. Let's start off at the most noticeable thing. This is the Mega Sentinel head. If you read New X-Men, GENOSHA was destroyed by Cassandra Nova's Mega Sentinels, and when they did their job and deactivated, the survivors, what few there were, repurposed the body of the Mega Sentinel and made it a memorial to their fallen leader Magneto. And that's what we're seeing here, them sort of halfway through repurposing this Sentinel. And this is started life as one of those masks you get from anywhere. It was transparent, had general features on it. Got it about Halloween time, so it was all the rage. And I built up this side with, well, both sides actually, with just hobby clay, and let that cure. There are some elements here that are craft foam. This and the chin strap going down here, and some other fodder pieces make up the rest. The eye is the original plastic from the mask, and I just carved out a piece and painted thin spidery white lines on it to give the suggestion of broken glass. And it took a lot of sanding and straight edging to try and get this looking, well, like a robot. And added in some detail here, like chiselled that out the final minute and just added in some little wires. There we are. The more involved side was the Magneto side of it. I wanted it to look like brickwork, and while it's all sculpted with clay, I did go in with a Dremel, evened out those edges. And rather than do complete brickwork, what I've just done is do a brick here and there to give you the suggestion and let your mind fill in that it is made of brick. Up here for the paint job, we've got some areas which are not brick, they are supposed to be plated metal, and that's just done with paintwork. And up here with the bricks up here, they're engraved in. And then what I did was paint the bricks and paint the metal, and then paint the colour coming over the top, so it looks like whoever the survivors are have perhaps run out of paint or just not finished off that area. The helmet itself is made from, this is the first time I've used it, craft plastic or styrene. It's very useful, kind of difficult to work with, cutting it to size. So what I did was make it from paper first of all, and then use that as a stencil to draw onto the craft plastic and cut it out. Again, the purple part is a raised element. I didn't want to paint that on, it wouldn't look as grand as I liked. And we've got a flosser and just more craft plastic here. So I really enjoyed making this head. The Sentinel part was an exercise in sort of precision, whereas the Magneto side was more artistic, able to work in wrinkles and grooves and, you know, just let myself go a bit. And it's been a long time since I worked at this sort of scale. So there we have him, and he sits up here. But of course you can put him anywhere if you want that sort of thing. I don't know why you want that, but anyway, that's where he's supposed to go. And I wanted it to be removable as well, because when we remove these pieces, it's not necessarily GENOSHA, it could be anywhere, and you could use it for any figures. Let's stick them back up there, and we'll go into the Sentinel's hand. Here we have the Sentinel's hand. This is an artist's mannequin hand. It's what artists use to, or rubbish artists maybe. I don't know, I don't draw much anymore. It's what they use to get the idea of hands, and it's made entirely from wood in the first place before I sculpted over it with clay and added in various fodder pieces. So it still articulates. That's something I looked in various toy departments to see if, you know, they'd ever made a sort of life scale Terminator hand or something like that, but the artist's hand turned out to be the best thing. It took a lot of patience to get build up the fingers with clay, but at the same time they're still fairly close together, so make sure that they can all pass each other and articulate as usual. The hand, the palm thing, whatever that is, has some magnets built in so that Cassandra Nova can stand steady no matter what angle the hand is at. And there we have it. So let's take a look at the main base. So before I go into the techniques that were used, the key to this entire project was another person. His name is Mike Barrera, and what I did initially was I wanted to make a Cassandra Nova and wanted her to be standing atop a pile of skulls, so I asked on the Facebook ACBA page, does anyone know a good source of skulls, or does anyone have any? And Michael Barrera stepped right up and said, yeah, and he posted me this huge amount of skulls that he had cast himself, and these things are spectacular, just amazing. They came in lots of different shapes and sizes. We would get some individual ones like this, which is great just to sit on the display, and then we get larger amounts where they've all been cast together. That was great as well. So thanks a million to Mike. He's the key to this whole project. So you'll see here what I did was I've put the skulls on and I've painted them grey, then washed them black, then dry brushed them with a lighter grey, and then, you know, if I was to, how can I demonstrate this? If I was to put that there, you know, it doesn't blend in very well. It literally is sitting on top of the base. So what I had to do was get some railway scenic ballast from Model Railways and just sprinkle that over and then glue it down with scenic cement. And that was an experience. I was piling it up quite high, making these sort of dunes of sand, but then, you know, the glue just wasn't sticking at all, so I narrowed it down, but it's still piled up in the places it needs to be. And that came out well, I think. Now the base itself is made entirely from polystyrene. I'll just show you the bottom where it's revealed. Yep, there we have it. So I just bought a big sheet of polystyrene and cut chunks out of it and piled it up here and along here. I glued it all down with hot glue, super glue. Hot glue to get any bits like this, and super glue where it needs to be fairly firm. And once I'd done that, I thought all that I would need to then do was just paint the thing, but I was rather naive. I've not really done a diorama before. Yeah, I was naive and realised that when you paint polystyrene, it still looks like polystyrene. It's still made up of thousands of little balls of polystyrene, and it wasn't working. So what I did, I needed to get a stone effect, a stone texture, before I even attempted to paint. So I got this. It's grout, for which you use to stick tiles on your bathroom, and yeah, I just layered that on, spread it with a wooden tongue depressor, and yeah, that hardens up in a couple of hours to be like stone. It's not as tough as stone, obviously, because it's really thin, but it gives you that texture. And then on top of that, I used this This is Plastic Coat Stone Touch Manhattan Mist, I think the colour is called, and you can see it's a spray, and it comes in this, and that's the effect that comes out when you spray it. It's kind of textured, not textured enough that I could just spray the polystyrene, I had to do the grout. So I did that, and that worked out well, and then I went in and, you know, that gave it a very even colour, so I needed to go in and create dark, you know, just as I would with any figure, create dark areas and highlights. And that was the base. Like I say, it can be used for any figures, not just this GENOSHA display. Here we have Cassandra Nova, who is the progenitor of all the chaos in my display. If you don't know Cassandra, she is, for all intents and purposes, Professor Xavier's evil twin sister. There is a lot more to her than that. She is a Grant Morrison creation, so there's a lot of high concept science fiction ideas behind her. But in figure form, Cassandra here is made from an X3 jean grey, for the most part. The legs, with sculpting added to give her these jodhpurs, and sculpting on the chest here, and the upper body is made from a Marvel Legends 2-pack Elektra. It was just a fodder body that I had, no particular reason behind it, well, apart from it's very plain, good for sculpting the detail on. The shoulders are from Elektra, and the arms are from the Wasp, because Elektra had very poor elbows that I didn't want to use. A lot of sculpting went into the shoulders here to create this sort of angular effect for the suit jacket, and added on the cuffs and the hands. These are, I wanted to find old person's hands, so they're creepy. But as you know, a lot of superheroes they're all young and too good looking to have disgusting Ivana Trump hands. So these are actually from a Matrix thug that came with a diorama there. I don't know the name of the diorama, but yep, these are the hands of an old man from a Matrix diorama. So they're quite, you see that? They're fairly wizened, if that's the word. And her coat is from a Marvel Legends Dracula figure, and blended in with sculpt to give this safari jacket. The head is from a Marvel Legends Wasp. I just dremeled away her cheeks to give her these sallow cheeks, and sculpted in her forehead, dremeled away all the hair, obviously, sculpted in the forehead, wrinkles, the eyebrows, altered the eye bags and nose, and gave her these, whatever these are called, jowls perhaps, I don't know, and then painted it all up. The hat comes from a Marvel Legends 2-pack Ultimate Captain America, the World War uniform, and just sculpted that up to a point on the top, and sculpted along these ridges, and added in a couple of dots on the side, just so I know that the helmet's on facing front when those dots are to her right. And the helmet can be positioned a little forward just to recreate that. Her eyes in shadow. Great reveal in New X-Men when we didn't know who this character was, and then because her eyes were always hidden, because that's the giveaway. She's bald and has big eyebrows, so that means she must be part of the Xavier clan. So there we have her, Cassandra Nova. She also has magnets in the bottom of her feet and her heels here, and those are so she can stand on the Sentinel hand I showed you earlier. And here we have part of Cassandra's Wild Sentinel army. The Wild Sentinels were, of course, the product of a master mold that had been abandoned in the jungle, and it went forward with its core programming to produce a Sentinel army, but without the materials it began to repurpose cars and motorbikes and any kind of technology it could come across. So we came up with these sort of chimera-like Sentinels, but we could tell they were Sentinels because they all had the Sentinel head, and I'm going to say it, they all had a purple helmet. With that out the way, that was the characteristic they all shared, but they were all very individual, and they came in flying types, spider types. There was one that was like a Portuguese man of war. There was a huge snake-like one. So yeah, that's what I've tried to recreate here. And let's start with the little guy. It's got the little spider one here. So the head here was sculpted, and just a little post from something else added in as a sort of camera lens. And the legs are from a Marvel Legends Dr. Octopus, and they all articulate. And the main body was from, I think it was just a random one of those guns they give away with Iron Man or some kind of Spider-Man figure that I had lying around, which, you know, you just have never got any use for. And the neck peg was from an Impossible Man figure. So there we have it, that's the spider, Wild Sentinel. Next one up is the flying Wild Sentinel. He is, the helmet this time is a little more intricate than the previous one. This is from a Judge Death figure. It's Judge Death's helmet with the grill cut away and a band added in along the bottom. Again, pegs added inside for the cameras. And I can't remember. That's maybe an Impossible Man neck peg as well. The arms are from a movie Spider-Man Dr. Octopus, so you may recognise them. They articulate as well. The tail is from, I can never remember the name of the figure. It's a McFarlane figure, very big, has these sort of tendrils for hair. Is it the Creech? I don't know. Anyway, the wings themselves are wings, if that's what they are flosser tips, and these are from the House of Iron Man. So he's just really, and that's just a random fodder piece. So yeah, he's just glued together from different fodder pieces to give this sort of maybe a dragonfly, or I don't know what it is, but with this tail that helps him get in all those flying sort of poses. And the big guy is lots of different pieces. He's got a helmet from Judge Death, and the body from a Cyber Spider-Man, which I sculpted over the front to hide all that spider work. The shoulder and upper arms are also from Cyber Spider-Man, and the lower arms are from McFarlane's Tortured Souls display base. They came with all these hooks and claws and all that, which were very useful in making these. The gun is from some random Marvel Legends figure. I don't know, I don't keep track of it. I think they just use the same gun over and over anyway. Again, these are from that McFarlane Creech figure. And the tail is three of Dr. Octopus from the movie and one of Dr. Octopus from the Marvel Legends, topped off with lots of Tortured Souls items. The back is part of a gun from Super Patriot. Gives it that engine, and the legs are from Mojo, Marvel Legends Mojo, and that exhaust is from a Tortured Souls thing. So yeah, that's all. That all bends round, can be posed however you want. And these were just initially supposed to be part of the tail, but then, you know, when it looks okay on paper, but then when you actually get it out as a figure, you think, oh god, it can't stand up. These became repurposed as the balancing tentacles. So yeah, that was a good job I added them in by mistake. So those are the Wild Sentinels. So let's take a look at the Sentinels now. These are sort of, compared to the wild Sentinels, these are more retro or modern, classic interpretations of the Sentinels. And these were fairly straightforward customs despite their size. They are from an NFL robot. I think its name is Cletus. I'm not familiar with that territory at all. And basically just with I took the shoulder pads off, big American football shoulder pads, and put them in the fodder bin, resculpted the faces. One is open-mouthed, and the other is closed. Just for that little bit of difference, and it kept me interested. And I was having real problems actually just keeping the faces consistent across the two figures. They're not going to stand up now. So these figures are actually really good. Surprised by the quality of them. They're really articulated. Yep. So I was really happy with these, and the paint job couldn't be simpler. Painted it black, dry brushed on the purple or silver, and then a little bit more silver over the purple areas, just give them a slightly worn effect. And yeah, I didn't go into it with too much detail at all. Simplicity itself. And this is my favourite figure from the piece. This is Bastion. Bastion is one of my favourite X-Men villains, and I don't really know why. He was great in the recent X-Force comic, and before that in Operation Zero Tolerance. Bastion is the ultimate Sentinel. There's a convoluted story behind him, where Master Mold and the future Sentinel Nimrod passed through a magical portal called the Siege Perilous, which promises rebirth with the chance of complete destruction. So they passed through it, and they were merged and reborn as this man Bastion. So, what can I say about him? He is a Marvel Legends face-off Punisher at the core. You recognise that body. He has Wonder Man's boots, and I've glossed these a little to differentiate between the more matte black on his body. Guess that didn't come across too well on camera, but there we are. I sculpted in details like the cuffs on his wrists and these golden detailing parts that were always there on his costume. No one knew what they were. Were they sort of zippers or something so they could go to the toilet? No, because he's a Sentinel man and he doesn't have a hose. The rest of it is pretty basic. Some Sota Remy hands and a paint job with this purple effect here. The head, that's a Marvel Legends Quicksilver with resculpted hair and goatee, and a paint job obviously to give him these creepy eyes. But while he looks quite kind of simple, Bastion was actually quite a lot of engineering work. He has what I suppose 90s Toy Biz would have called a transforming Nimrod Sentinel armour. So his head is attached, as is quite common for me, with a magnet, and a magnet inside the head. Take that away. The arm, while it is fully articulated, it's also on a peg and socket inside. That took a lot of engineering to take the disc off the end of the arm and replace that hole with a Sota socket. And the same went for the leg. That's exactly the same situation. Post and socket. Which leaves him as this half man that I suppose he really is. And we will build him up with his Nimrod Sentinel armour. Here we have a Super Patriot leg with a House of M Iron Man lower leg. Or is that a modern Iron Man lower leg? I don't know. Anyway, the House of M Iron Man hand, his fingers went on to become these toes. And I added this flosser and bent it and sculpted it in to give it this fin. The Super Patriot leg is fairly recognisable because it has circular ports going along the leg. So I dremeled them off, dremeled the bands back in and sculpted on this so it doesn't immediately jump out as being, oh yeah, it's Bastion wearing Super Patriot's leg. So that's it. We've got his Sentinel leg. We've also got his Sentinel arm. And that's a Super Patriot arm, again breaking up the design with these sculpted details in the fins. And the hand itself is Super Patriot's hand, with one of the ports from his leg added onto the palm. And these fingers are from a manga Spawn figure, just sculpted on. And I was quite happy with how that came out. And in the War? In Second Coming, when Bastion gets really destroyed and pissed off, he starts developing these three-fingered hands and toes, which are a sort of trademark of the Nimrod Sentinel, and that just plugs in to his arm there. But before that goes on, there is a piece to go over his chest here. So this is all sculpted. What I did was cover the body of the figure with aluminium, tin foil, or aluminum tin foil, I suppose, and sculpt on top of that so it didn't stick to the figure, then just pull the foil off. So this just slots on top of his body. It doesn't hinder the articulation, and it's kept in place by when the arm plugs into the socket there. And then, replacing this head, we have his transformed head, or transforming head. You'll see we're going from the flesh tone over here to the fully transformed sort of Sentinel side over here. So we've got flesh and hair, and then beginning to dry brush in with gold, and paint in these sort of light lines. And then his hair eventually gives way to these more mechanical looking bands, which eventually fail completely, and he becomes, the lights eventually go into these deep grooves that are all sculpted in. And again, that's a Marvel Legends Quicksilver head, just to maintain that similarity between the two. And Bastion's head, of course, pops on his body like that and comes into focus like that. So there we have him. That's him mostly transformed. But in the comics, Bastion also had a couple of wings coming out his back, and I made these. These are, again, this craft plastic or styrene, and just cut to shape and added in a Revoltech joint, because they are quite heavy, so they need to have that little bit of ratcheting to stay in place so they don't just swing with gravity, and a peg from a Sota Street Fighter figure, which slots into socket on his back like so, and the other one does as well. And there we are, and push them back as far as they can go so you can get as much film on the camera as you can. There we are. And that's Bastion fully transformed into his future Sentinel armour. I really am quite pleased with how this figure came out. If you've seen my other customs, that I love to do sort of interchangeable hands and heads that are sort of little nods to what's happened in the comics, and this is sort of the ultimate expression of that. He's actually almost transforms into an entirely different figure. Yeah, that's Bastion. And so the gang's all here to have a final farewell. Almost like the Beverly Hillbillies, you all come back now, you hear, so we can mutilate your corpse. Which was, of course, the final credits to the Beverly Hillbillies. So there we have my completed display. And just a final shout out once again to Mike Pereira, who sent me the skulls for the base, and who, this was a complete coincidence, in the package of skulls that he sent to me was this skull. I don't know where Mike got it from, or how he knew. Fate, destiny, serendipity, who knows. But there's Magneto's skull, just to join the others. Because as we know, on GENOSHA, Magneto was the only skull that was allowed to wear a hat. There we have it. Thank you very much for watching. Comment, rate and subscribe please, and I'll see you all soon.